your True Balance MD, and I am here with Steve G. Jones. He is a clinical hypnotherapist and specializes in hypnotherapy, which can be applied to all aspects of your life and it can cause improvement in many areas. We're going to be talking today about how you can use it to improve not only your weight, but all aspects of your health. Steve has a doctorate in education. He has studied at Harvard. He has written 25 books on hypnosis and recorded 9,000 hypnosis programs. He is an expert in hypnotherapy. I'm so pleased that he has agreed to do this podcast with us today and share his expertise. Welcome, Steve. So grateful to have you on the call.
Oh, Dr. Dunston, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I am so excited to hear about your experience with hypnotherapy and weight loss. I know that you sell thousands of different programs to help with lots of issues, and certainly many, many medical issues, from insomnia, depression, bulimia, anorexia, smoking cessation, to irritable bowel and overactive bladder. But that weight loss is your number one selling health issue that people are interested in. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's a winner year after year, which shows me a couple things. Number one, people are still feeling overweight. And number two, they're interested in getting better.
So tell me about why hypnotherapy for weight loss. How does it work? Why does it work? How do you use it? Tell me all about it.
Well, hypnotherapy is all about getting your subconscious mind on board with your conscious plan. I mean, you can have a conscious plan to lose weight, but if you're subconsciously not invested in it, if you don't believe deep down inside that you're worthy of losing weight, that you can lose weight, that you should lose weight, that there's a, as Dr. Phil would say, there's a payoff for losing weight, then you're not going to lose weight. So you've got to be on board. So hypnotherapy is nothing more than relaxing someone into a very relaxed state of mind, alpha or lower. And by the way, you can go into alpha without even realizing it when you daydream or drive in a car, or read a book, or even take a shower or vacuum. You can go into alpha. So in that state, which is easily attainable, you become very suggestible. Your mind becomes very open to suggestion. You become programmable. And because we have that natural ability, we can use that by just relaxing someone and putting positive suggestions in their mind. In this case, as we're talking, weight loss. So confidence for accepting the weight loss and determination to continue on with everything it takes, which is, of course, moving more and eating less, and the acceptance of the transformation that their body will make.
Okay, so you're really accessing the subconscious mind and implanting information that helps people to be in alignment with some of the principles of losing weight, such as eating and consuming less and moving more. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So it's a way of bypassing the conscious mind, which oftentimes will reject those thoughts.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes. In fact, there's a part in my hypnotherapy sessions, because the conscious mind can be such a culprit, undoing it. I put a what I call an amnesia section in my hypnosis recordings, and when I work with someone live, and that's an attempt to scramble their conscious recollection of the subconscious programming so they don't analyze it. Otherwise, someone might say to themselves, wait a minute, I know Dr. Jones said this and that and the other thing, but I don't believe that about myself. I don't believe in my possibilities. So the subconscious mind can be programmed like a computer, but the conscious mind can analyze and undo. So we want to hinder its ability to undo what we're working on.
Right. So I noticed in some of your recordings, because I have your weight loss recordings, that you actually can't hear the words that you're saying. They're subliminal. So the conscious mind actually cannot reject them, which I love. Because sometimes if I hear someone say, or I even notice this with patients, that if I tell them something that they don't believe consciously, then they automatically reject it. Whereas if I could get it into them subliminally, it's kind of like getting your kids vegetables and blending them up in a spaghetti sauce. Then they can't reject them.
I like it. I love your Dr. Phil type metaphors. That's exactly right. That's what we're attempting to do. Give them something that's good for them, but they may find it a little distasteful because it doesn't go with what they're used to or what they really enjoy consciously. So very well put.
So can you tell me about an experience that you've had with a patient where you've used hypnotherapy successfully for weight loss?
Oh, yeah, there's a story of a lady named Jen, and it's got to be about 10 years ago at this point, but she was in her early 20s when she came into my office, and she was, oh gosh, I guess about 180 pounds over her ideal weight. So in addition to her ideal weight, she had 180 or so extra pounds. She was on the verge of suicide. She came in with her mom. Her mom insisted on staying through the sessions, which, since Jen was an adult, we had to have her agree to that, and she did, so her mom stayed through the sessions. I worked with Jen for about 5 sessions, and we worked on the usual things that I work on with a weight loss patient, losing weight, not eating certain things that are contributing to weight gain, starting to eat things that would contribute to better health, exercising, letting go of binge eating, getting motivated, believing in herself, things like that over that 5-week period. And then I didn't hear from her for a couple years. She just kind of disappeared, and I didn't hear from her, and then I got a letter from her saying that not only, and this is the best part, not only did she not kill herself, which I was so concerned because she was suicidal when she came to my office, she was not only alive but thriving. She had met the man of her dreams, which in her dream, it was a 6'2" architect. She had started having children, she was in a beautiful house, and she had lost the amount of weight that she no longer wanted or needed. So that is not a testimonial for my power, but that's a testimonial for the power of hypnosis. And more importantly, it's a testimonial about human will. You know, she had to have the willpower to come to the office and to stick with it and to start exercising and start eating differently. So she made it happen. And that story really touches my heart to this day.
That's a wonderful story. And I love being able to be involved in positive changes in people's lives, and I know that you do too, and that's why we do what we do. So that's wonderful. And so I'm sure that you know this, but this weight gain, about 30% of people who have excess weight, food addiction and compulsive eating is part of the problem. Do you find that hypnotherapy helps with these problems?
I do, and about week 3, when I work with someone for a 5-session series, I see them once a week for 5 weeks. Week 3, we address binge eating, because that's the week that I find that people start to rebel. If I'm working with them on gambling addiction, they'll start gambling more during that time. If I'm working with them on saving money, they'll start wasting money during that time. If I'm working with them on weight loss, they'll start getting up at night and eating everything they can at that time. Week 3 is about the time that the subconscious mind kicks in and says, wait a minute, there's a payoff for being overweight. Maybe they had some unwanted attention from the opposite sex when they were younger that became inappropriate. And by having this barrier on them, it detracts from that. It keeps the attention off of them. Maybe they feel that if they lose weight, they'll be expected to do other things that are even more, require more energy. And maybe they tried something when they were younger and failed at it. They don't want to fail again. So there are a lot of payoffs people can have for being overweight. And about week 3, the subconscious mind kicks in and says, wait a minute, we want to be overweight. There's a reason we're overweight. It's for your own good. So it makes them start working against themselves and sabotaging. So I find that's a normal part of the process. I anticipate it. I expect it. When it does happen, I explain that it is normal, and then we address it, and then we're able to help them, we meaning me and them, we work together to help them overcome the cravings with a new understanding that we're rewiring everything. There's no longer that need for that payoff. There's this desire now that they're moving into to have this beautiful, healthy body.
And so how does hypnotherapy help to rewire against this compulsion?
Well, I make a new association. I use also other processes such as, or techniques rather, such as neuro-linguistic programming, techniques originally invented by Richard Bandler and John Grinder, but since then the body of knowledge has been added onto extensively by many others, even on a daily basis it's added onto. So by using the basis of neuro-linguistic programming, I can create a new association. So whereas food previously meant perhaps comfort, now certain foods mean comfort, maybe lean chicken and broccoli, but cake and ice cream, they no longer mean comfort. So I can cause a new association in their mind between those unhealthy foods and pleasure, so they no longer equal pleasure. And those foods that are really good for them, which they formerly associated with, waste of time and don't taste good and stuff like that, the new association for those foods becomes this powerful, new, wonderful, beautiful body and this future that they're moving into.
Okay, so you are rewiring the neural circuits to rearrange the old associations into new, healthier ones.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. And how did you become interested? I'm always fascinated with what leads people into the careers that they're in and why they're passionate about what they do. What led you into this?
Well, I was in military school. My parents sent me to Riverside Military Academy in Gainesville, Georgia. Everyone's parents threatened to send them to boarding school or military school. Mine actually did. So there I was in military school, and I was bored and I was stuck. My parents lived in South Florida, and I was in military school in northern Georgia. So I got a book on hypnosis called The Complete Guide to Hypnosis by a PhD psychologist, Leslie Lacron, who's no longer with us. He wrote a very succinct book, about a 150-page paperback book, The Complete Guide to Hypnosis. It wasn't really complete, but it was enough to get a teenage kid started on his path to hypnosis. So soon I had kids coming into my room, lying down on my bunk bed, wanting to be hypnotized. So I hypnotized the smart kids to study more efficiently. Yep. And I hypnotized the athletes to exercise more efficiently. So all these years, that was the early 80s, all these years later, I'm still doing that, except now the smart kids are NASA and the athletes are the Dodgers.
That's funny. I love that story. And so it's funny how who we are really develops pretty young in life. It's funny, somebody was asking me a similar question the other day, and I was just recalling a picture that I have of me listening to my lion, the stuffed lion episode when I was 5 years old. It's just who I am, was tending to my stuffed animals with my little doctor kit. So how has hypnotherapy helped you in your life? Has it helped you personally?
Oh, it's benefited me tremendously. I was a shy kid in high school before I discovered hypnosis. About 10th grade that I started hypnotizing my roommates, but I also started hypnotizing myself using self-hypnosis. The reason I ended up in military school, aside from just not believing my parents would send me there and continuing to act up every now and then, one of the reasons was I didn't do well in 9th grade. In 9th grade algebra, I chose to talk to Susie, who sat next to me, instead of paying attention to the teacher, so I failed 9th grade algebra. And I got to military school, and I wasn't doing much better until I discovered hypnosis. And I started applying myself. I started getting engaged in my environment. Actually, my doctorate, having gone through my doctorate in education, my doctorate was on engagement. What causes college students to remain engaged in their learning environment so that they can have more success. So this idea of getting engaged in your environment stuck with me for a long time, and it actually pulled me through. So hypnosis pulled me out of my shell, got me engaged with my environment, and opened up this world of possibility for me where I could benefit from it by hypnotizing myself, but also directly benefit from it by making a living from it, by helping other people, by showing them the true power that they have.
That's fascinating. And, it's interesting. I didn't call it this at the time, but actually when I was in high school, my mother had given me a cassette tape that dates me in terms of how old I am. But she had given me a series of cassettes, and I believe the company was a Nightingale Conan.
Oh, yeah.
And they had put out. Yeah, and it was a series of tapes, and And now I recognize that it essentially was a form of hypnotherapy, and it was to improve your performance in school, your study habits. And it helped you to access information that you had learned when you studied right before a test. And now I recognize that that's what that was, and it's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
that got me, and those guys are still around. You know, Nightingale Conant, great company. Bob Proctor got to start with them. We do a lot of interaction with all of those folks now, developing self-help products and getting advice from them and advising them. For me, it was there's a guy named Barry Konikoff who had cassette tapes, and he had some on really interesting things like astral travel and psychic powers, and I started listening to those. They were hypnosis on one side, subliminal programming on the other, and that really got me interested in the esoteric aspect of it. But then as I developed my skills more and got formal education, I started going into the more academic areas of it, such as weight loss and smoking cessation.
Fascinating. It has so much applicability in so many fields, and especially in healthcare. So other than weight loss, where have you seen the most impact in terms of improvement in health?
Well, I'd say smoking cessation is the number one. You know, I met a medical doctor recently through a friend. We were all just hanging out somewhere, and he said, "What we started talking about smoking cessation," and he shook my hand. He works in the emergency room. He sees a lot of, I'm sure you do too, a lot of things that are related to the challenges of smoking. Smoking can mess up most of the body's systems pretty quickly. So my father passed away 10 years ago from smoking, and right before that I became a member of the board of directors of the American Lung Association in Los Angeles, which I no longer serve on, but it was an honor to serve on it when I lived out there. Smoking cessation is the second biggest area where I see hypnosis being used to save lives and to improve health.
Yes, absolutely, and I think you would agree weight loss would be number one, yes?
Yes, absolutely. Weight loss, number one area where hypnosis helps people and saves lives, and smoking cessation, number two.
Yes. And I so love the work that you do. The work that I do with weight loss is really kind of against mainstream medicine, which for years has told patients essentially that the reason they're not losing weight is because it's their fault, because they need to eat less and exercise more, as if the body or a math equation, when it's not. It's really a complex biochemical equation. And so we address all aspects of a person's health. We address hormones, balance, toxicity, adequate nutrition, and also the mental, emotional, spiritual balance. And I just the other night was speaking with my group who's in my weight loss program about dialoguing with the excess weight, which essentially is dialoguing with the subconscious about what is the weight there to tell them, because exactly as you were speaking to, it's there to serve some function, came there to speak to them. So I love that the work you're doing helps them also to access that subconscious and to get it in alignment with releasing that weight and agreeing to release it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, we hear the arguments all the time. Well, there are no overweight people in concentration camps. You know, just a terrible, terrible analogy to make. But they talk about the mechanics of it. Yeah, if you eat less and you do a lot of work, you're going to lose weight. That is absolutely true. But when people aren't in a situation where they're forced to have fewer calories and forced to work, and in a godly situation like that, they have choices, and the choices they make are based on what's in their heads, and what's in their heads comes from what they've heard from their youth, they've heard from their parents, or they've gathered from their environment, how they feel about themselves. So we are very complex organisms with a lot of options. So in dealing with someone who wants to lose weight, we've got to accept that. They're not machines. We're not just going to have them do something as we would program a machine. We make our best attempt with hypnosis to program them like machines, but we've got to have a holistic approach and understand the reason behind it. Why are they overweight? And once we get to that, once we deal with that, then we're well on our way to helping them change their lives.
Yes, I mean, holistic is so key. And I know for me personally, and I shared this with my patients the other night, I had to realize and accept that the weight was serving a function for me emotionally on a subconscious level. It was protecting me, and I had a fear of other people. And so until I could deal with that fear another way, it was going to be very difficult for me to lose that weight, because I lost 100 pounds myself.
Wow.
So recognizing that, yeah, and accepting that, well, that's how they say your pain becomes your purpose. So that was my pain, and I found the way to overcome it, found that mainstream medicine really did not have the answer to weight loss. And when I found functional medicine and found what you really need to do to lose weight, and I lost the weight, that's really when I transitioned my practice and became passionate about bringing the truth to other people and helping them learn the truth. And part of that is coming to weight loss with a holistic approach that includes incorporating things like hypnotherapy and addressing the mental, emotional, spiritual part of people. I think it's absolutely key. So that's why I just love the work that you do.
Well, thank you, and I love the work that you do. I mean, if you look at medical doctors who are popular these days, they're the holistic ones. Dr. Mehmet Oz, a cardiologist who is embracing holistic healing. He actually brings a hypnotist on his TV show every now and then. Dr. Andrew Weil, who studied at Harvard. He is a medical doctor who has a holistic healing center. These are the medical doctors who, like yourself, get public attention because the public realizes, hey, drugs don't solve everything. There is this whole aspect of us that we control, and that is our subconscious minds.
Absolutely. And Dr. Oz and Dr. Weil actually do practice functional medicine, which is the medicine of the 21st century, and that's what I practice. They don't necessarily call it that, but that is what they practice. And Dr. Oz, he was here in Savannah with his wife doing a lecture recently, and I spoke with him about my book, which is coming out shortly, Cracking the Bikini Code, and he was very excited about the title. He said, yes, we have to make weight loss sexy for people. They have to make it sexy.
Yep.
But, he loved the fact that it had the functional medicine principles in it, which is exactly what he talks about every day on his show, and I absolutely love his show.
Yep.
So this has been wonderful. Is there anything else that you think that people need to know about hypnotherapy, especially when it comes to their health and their weight?
Well, I always like to leave people with this, and it's a quote from the musical group America, and it's about the Wizard of Oz, and that is, Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And the takeaway from that is that we already have the ability, the power, the strength to reach in ourselves and change ourselves, but sometimes we forget that. We forget that we are in control and we can help ourselves. And that's where things like hypnotherapy come into play, just reminding you of how awesome and beautiful and amazing you already are.
Yes, and I remind my patients all the time that criticizing ourselves never got us anywhere, but loving ourselves and praising ourselves helps. So you are amazing exactly the way you are, and we just need to help people remember that, and that helps them get where they want to be. So thank you so much, Steve G. Jones, hypnotherapist. You can check out his website. It is SteveGJones.com. That's SteveGJones.com. He has thousands of programs. He's got books on there, all kinds of information, classes, etc. There is a plethora of information on his website for you to learn more about this. And thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. It has been informative, enjoyable, and I thank you so much.
Well, Dr. Dunston, thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. This is Dr. Kyrin Dunston, your True Balance MD. I will talk to you soon.